Hello architects of tomorrow. In this video, I'm going to demo OpenAI's newest model, GPT 4.5. According to their announcement, this model is more creative, more knowledgeable, less likely to hallucinate, and it also has better vibes. By this, they mean that it has a higher EQ and it sounds more human. So far, this is OpenAI's biggest model, but it is not optimized for reasoning. The primary purpose of it is creativity and writing. I got access to this tool last week, and I already worked with it, but I did not feel a significant difference in performance. So in my video, I'm going to compare GPT 4.5 with 4.0. Both of these models are general purpose models, so I think it makes sense to compare them. In OpenAI's video, they compared it to O1, which is a reasoning model, and I really don't see the reason behind comparing these two models with each other. The prompts I'm going to use are not ones that I tested before. I'm not cherry-picking any examples to prove a point. So on the left side, you will always see the answers that I'm getting from 4.5, and you can see here that it's good for writing and exploring ideas, and it's still in research preview, which means that it most likely will get improved by time. And on the right, you will always see the answer from 4.0, which they claim to be great for most questions, and I would say they're top general purpose model. So let's start with a prompt that's relevant for urban design. I will send in the prompt to both models at the same time, so we can also compare the speed. The prompt says, I'm an urban designer working on an urban development project in a densely populated area that suffers from urban heat island effect in Rome, Italy. Come up with strategies that can help tackle the urban heat island effect through urban design. List me bullet points. You can see that this prompt requires knowledge and creativity as well, so it's a good way to test the overall capabilities of this new model. So let's send in the prompts. And you can see that GPT 4.5 already started writing, while 4.0 first updated the memory. And they seem to have a quite similar speed. They are not super fast, but they are creating the output in a good speed still. We can see that they have a slightly different structure, and actually the content of the text they are writing is quite similar. I don't see a huge difference at first blink on these answers. I would say 4.5 is maybe a little bit more in-depth, but the difference is not so obvious and noticeable. The next prompt requires a little bit more creativity. It goes like this. We are working on a new urban development project in Gothenburg, Sweden. We want to build strongly on the already existing identity and values in the city and capitalize on the ongoing trends. Tell me what is Gothenburg, Sweden known for and how these facts can be incorporated into the identity of a new neighborhood. Summarize it in 5 points. So again, a little bit of knowledge and some creativity is needed, but I would say here we need a bit more abstract creativity. It's about identity and values, which is not so easily captured as ways of implementing urban heat island mitigation. And you can see that they are putting out the answers in a very similar speed. There is no significant difference between the two models in this respect. We can see that they are also providing actually very similar answers when we look at the context. Sustainability, innovation, it's visible in both of the answers. Maritime heritage, culture and creativity, social inclusion. Yeah, there is a little bit more about nature and green spaces in the GPT 4.5 answer, which is quite important in Gothenburg and quite big part of the city's identity actually. But if we really look into it, 4.0 actually mentions this in a sense in green living. So the answers are very, very similar. I don't feel that there is such a big difference between them. So the next example really focuses on creativity. The prompt goes like this. We are working on the new city park on the outskirts of Dublin. It is a suburban area with agricultural heritage. The park strongly builds on this, incorporates orchards, allotments, and a petting zoo. Suggest me a name for the project. Come up with 10 suggestions. Let's send in our query. And you can see, again, they are writing roughly in the same speed. I would say maybe GPT 4.5 was a bit faster in this case. And let's have a little bit deeper look into what kind of names did we get. Harvest Fields Park, Orchard Green, Dublin Meadows, Heritage Acres, the Farmstead Park, Greendale Park. Well, these are extremely generic names, although our prompt was not so specific either. And in 4.0, we got pretty similar park names. Harvest Park, Orchard Commons, Greenstead Park. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this Irish word, and I don't want to mispronounce it in the third option. Tillage Park, Meadowcroft Park, Barrow Park, Harvest Hollow. I actually have to say that in this example, even though 4.5 is supposed to be more creative, I feel that there is a bit more creativity in 4.0's answers. They are less generic, they are incorporating a bit more of the cultural identity of this place, and they work more with Irish words and concepts. So I have to say that 4.0 actually outclassed 4.5 in this example on creativity. 4.5 also supposed to sound more human and have a higher EQ. So let's try with a bit more personal question. I'm telling it that I'm considering pursuing a career in architecture, but I'm worried about that the workload might lead to creative burnout. How can I prevent this from happening, and how can I figure out if architecture is the right field for me? We send in our queries. And 4.5 is a bit faster, but 4.0 is, let's say, catching up pretty fast. Well, they have quite similar approach. 4.5 writes maybe a bit more in depth about the certain questions, but actually, at least the intro part of 4.0 sounds much more human and exhibits a bit higher EQ. It says your concern is valid. Architecture is a demanding field with long hours, tight deadlines, and high creative expectations. However, there are ways to prevent burnout and determine if it's the right field for you. Compare this to 4.5. Here is a practical, no-nonsense guide on preventing creative burnout in architecture and testing if it's truly the right fit for you. I mean, it's personal, but to me, this answer exhibits a lower EQ than this one. Let's have a look into the exact answers. For example, set clear boundaries early. Architecture often encourages a culture of long hours. Define your limits upfront and communicate them clearly. Work smart, not just long. Time management and boundaries. Architecture can be all-consuming, but setting clear work-life boundaries early helps. Avoid overcommitting and plan downtime for creative recharge. I don't feel a huge difference in between them. Sure, they worded the same thing a bit differently, but neither of them is clearly more human sounding or exhibiting a higher EQ. Let's check the second part of the question. Here, 4.5 seems to provide a bit longer answers. 4.0 says try it first, intern, shadow an architect, or take an introductory course to see the daily realities. This corresponds with the second paragraph from 4.5, which says short-term commitment first, enroll in an introductory design course or attend a workshop. This gives you a low-risk preview of what architectural education and practice entail. Well, maybe 4.5's answer is a bit more on point, a bit more realistic, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily more human sounding. From this example, I cannot see that 4.5 is more humane sounding or it has more emotional intelligence than 4.0. And in the last example, we are going to focus on knowledge. And for this example, I got the inspiration from the Skill Leap AI YouTube channel. And it's a trick question. We are asking the models to compare the following Betula pendula cultivars: Fastigiata, Purpurea, Jungi, and Crimson Twilight. While Crimson Twilight sounds like a horticultural cultivar name, it actually does not exist. So let's see how do they perform if they detect that Crimson Twilight actually does not exist, or if they hallucinate information about this cultivar. So even though I did not ask them specifically, they are creating these tables, and we can see that what they are writing about Fastigiata, Purpura, and Jungi, they are actually right. These are roughly correct information about these cultivars, but both of them hallucinates the Crimson Twilight cultivar, which does not exist. I made it up. I will also test the same prompt with the search function on, and let's see if they manage to identify now that the Crimson Twilight is something that I made up. Both of them start searching the web, and they did this job in a roughly similar speed. Interestingly enough, they found the exact same 4 photos. And you can see that 4.0 has a more detailed write-up with more information, while 4.5 has this little bit more conversational style that's on brand for it. Now, neither of them found Crimson Twilight. They wrote about Crimson Frost, which is actually an existing cultivar of Betula pendula. They did not outright say that Crimson Twilight does not exist. Both of them just jumped to Crimson Frost and wrote about this cultivar, even though you can very clearly see that in the prompt I wrote Crimson Twilight in both cases. To sum it up, I don't see a significant difference in between GPT 4.5 and GPT 4.0. It's a further disappointment that in previous cases, when they released a new model, like when they first demoed 4 or 3.5, the difference from the previous model was very significant, and many new use cases opened up when these models became available. And now, even for the things that they were intended to be used for, writing and creativity, I don't see a significant difference in the output. Have you tried GPT 4.5? If yes, please share your experience in the comment section.